Today we have the AVKANS multi-port video switcher and streamer. AVKANS is a brand I've reviewed before with their PTZ cameras. Found them to be a good quality product at a reasonable price point. And like many companies in that vein, they have expanded into other areas. So they make a PTZ controller, which is to be expected. And now they're releasing products to take on the likes of like Blackmagic with their Atom Mini product by launching their own kind of version of it. Usually when companies do this, they tweak the formula in some way to try to stand out. And this one, just looking at it online, seems to do that. So I'm excited to take a better look. Ostensibly what it is a video switcher that takes multiple inputs, in this case from both SDI and HDMI, which is an interesting way to do it, and I appreciate it, at least an idea. And then also let you stream directly from the unit itself over RTMP, in many ways acting like the ATEM Mini Pro line of products does. So let's get this one out of this rather nondescript looking box and see what we got. All right, so pardon the interruption. I just want to give you a little clue as to how channels like this work, especially those of us who work in more niche content. The YouTube ad revenue is literally pennies and not how I primarily support this channel. I do it through Amazon affiliate links. Now here's the thing. When you click on one of the Amazon affiliate links below in the description, even if you don't buy the exact product that I am linking to, if you buy something in that experience and you start by clicking on one of my links, then I get a little cut of it. It doesn't cost you anything. That's Amazon paying it out of Amazon share. The only other way to make this work is to do things like sponsored or advertised content, which I don't want to do because I want to offer objective information and advice to you. So please check the links below if you're interested in anything you've seen here today. And even if you come back later, use those links, buy your products, enjoy what you buy, help me out. Thank you. All right, so let's talk about what you get in the box. You get multi-voltage AC adapter, as you would expect. You get a USB-A to USB-C cable, and what seems to be like a DIY switch adapter thing. I haven't looked at this already, know that this is something labeled tally light, so it will control your tally lights, I would guess. Chances are nobody's ever going to use this, and I'm not either. All right, now we got the main unit itself, which first off, it's got some heft to it. I mean, it's got a decent, I think it's like an aluminum enclosure, definitely something that's designed to look in place in a professional audio video rack setup where most of these things tend to live, so that's great. We've got a standard collection of buttons on the front that I think once we get it plugged in, we'll get to play with a little bit more, but you see you have 4 different input sources, your program and your preview, things right there. You do have a manual slider that you're going to use to switch between your preview and your program, and that's kind of fun. I mean, it lets you have some control over how fast things go, and I'm like, okay, I buy that. A menu button, and then, everything else that I'm sure will make more sense once we get it plugged in. All right, the main event is, of course, around the back when we talk about the inputs and the outputs. So first off, on the side, we've got a USB media for playing, I would assume, USB media. Very curious about that, and really curious about whether that will play video or whether it will just play audio. If it does have the ability to play video sources, that is actually a really neat feature, and I'm kind of hoping that's what it does. We've got an audio output, a headphone output for monitoring your audio. 2 mic inputs, which is becoming pretty much the standard, an SD card slot, and then we have our inputs. Here is where this gets interesting. ATEM, which is the most comparable product with their minis, will sell you an SDI-based one or an HDMI-based one. This one mixes the two, where you get 2 SDI inputs and 2 HDMI inputs. This actually is really kind of neat because a lot of times when you're running, especially PTZ cameras, they've got an SDI input, and there's a lot of reason to use SDI because as a standard, its cabling is a lot simpler. It's a small coaxial cable, and it goes a lot further than HDMI does. So being able to wire in cameras with a native SDI input, I really actually kind of like. But you know, if it's all SDI inputs, you can run into a problem where if you're taking a feed from, say, your laptop or your computer running presentation software, that's generally going to come out as HDMI. So having two HDMIs and two SDIs is a really neat solution. All right, so then we have some outputs happening here. We have two program outputs. This is really neat because you've got two HDMI bases of the program output. So if you want to send the program to the actual feed to somewhere else in your building or whatever it is, or to another monitor to monitor it, whatever that might be, the fact that you have two different program outputs that I assume are the same feed, just two different ones, you could see where that'd be really handy. Multi-view is the one that no doubt you're going to want to plug into and have a screen running multi-view in front of this screen because you'll notice this doesn't have a screen of its own. So if you want to see what you're controlling, the multi-view is probably going to be the way to go there. USB, a USB recording, so for a thumb drive, and then USB out, so this can become basically to your computer a webcam. So if you don't want to use its built-in streaming functions through the LAN port, you can USB it to your computer. Your computer will just see it as a webcam, a camera, and audio source, and then of course you can set that through Zoom or YouTube on their back end, whatever that is. Standard LAN port. The tally light port, that's what that little DIY kit here thing is for. Nobody's ever going to use it, but it's there, great. And then a DC in 12 volts. Doesn't look like this runs on PoE or anything like that because these generally need more power than PoE can do, so you are going to need to actually plug it in. Nothing on that side, nothing on the front. So let's go ahead and get it set up. I'm going to set it up with at least a camera connected to a monitor, and we'll see how it works. All right, so I got it set up here. I've put a couple of cameras on it that have been featured on this channel before. This one is running in over SDI, as you can see, to input 1. Input 2 doesn't have anything connected to it. My little OBS bot here is on input 4, and the computer, my test bench, is in input 3. So you can see we've got the program view along with the preview view, so you can, in the program view, cycle between things, or in the preview view, you can do the things you might do in a preview, getting everything all set up, and all of that. And down here, you've got your status view that kind of tells you everything that is going on. This is not going to be a thorough review of every single feature, but for things you're going to most normally use, you can use it like this. My understanding is that there is a web back end to this that you can connect to if you want to get some additional settings in there. I think that is especially how you will set up streaming is by doing that, by connecting it through the website back end, because there's no convenient way to enter a URL and password and all things you have to do for RTMP through this interface. So that's how you're going to set up that. Outside of that, everything else is configurable right here. And for the most part, it's fairly straightforward. Now, they've done a couple of things that I don't care for as much from a usability perspective. First off, the switching between things, either live switching, directly in the program view, or setting things up ahead of time and then using the fader. Look at that, woo! To move between them is, it works. It works well. It's pretty straightforward. It's easy to do. If you don't want to use a fader and you just want to use a cut, you can do that. There is an opportunity for chroma keying and luma keying, something that most people aren't going to do, but if you want to do it, you can do it. And then a couple of things that I've noticed that especially maybe are not the best design is with the audio. So as you can see down here, we have multiple audio sources. So much like other similar products, you're going to get an audio source on both of your HDMIs. You're going to get an audio source on your microphone inputs if you're using those, you know, and all of that. Now, if you want to adjust the volume level, you can see right here, we've got the different volume levels for them. If you want to adjust the volume level for a particular input, you actually have to select it, mic 1, and then it starts flashing, and then all these ones down here are controlling that. So you've got your volume down, you see my sliders going down, and you've got your volume up. You also have your ability to turn on audio follow video for the video sources that have sound, obviously not for this, which basically means when you change over the video source, you're changing over the audio source too. Most of the time, that's not actually something you're going to do because you're getting a feed from your soundboard or whatever it is. So chances are what you're going to have is you're going to have like mic 1 right here set the way that you want it. Then you're going to go mic 2, you're going to turn that sound off. You're going to go over, you know, to the rest of these, you know, and turn them either off or, you know, all the way down or whatever you need. So instead of having individual volume buttons on each one of the inputs, you have to switch between them, and then that switches what these buttons do. I've seen other products where there's actually individual volume controls and individual on-off controls and APU controls for each of the inputs. It's a lot more buttons, so I can understand why they did it. Chances are you're not going to change it all that often, but it's something to think about. Also, the plus and minus are the opposite of what I would think they do. The plus is on the left and the minus is on the right, and I would really think that's the other way around, but you know, hey, whatever makes you happy. All right, we've got two versions of picture-in-picture right here, and when you turn on your picture-in-picture right here, you can see I'm mixing it on the preview screen so I can get it ready to go. And then when I want that to hit the air, I can hit on air. And then when I want this one to hit the air, I can hit on air, and I can turn them off, you know, independently of each other, have them on this screen, and then go over there. There is an ability to have a logo. You can load your logo into the image bank inside the little unit here, and then you can have your logo, and again, you can put that on air or off air. We can turn it off. Same with these patterns. There's different patterns that are available to you. Where'd I go? There I am. You know, as far as that button goes, and then still, these are all customizable. So here's the pattern on this preview button. It's a bird for some reason, but probably to test chroma keying, actually, now that I see that that's there, if you want to do that. All right, as I suspected, the loading media into it to play media, it's just pictures. It's not going to let you use it like as a video source or whatever. So that's okay. I mean, that's par for the course. Most of them can do that. I'd love the unit that can do this and actually do play videos back off like USB or something like that is going to be my hero device. But this one, not so much. But if you want to load up some image bays and have some things to, stay tuned or whatever and load all that up, you can do it. So that's nice. You can control what you record to. So right now I'm recording to the SD card on the back, or you can record to the USB disk. You have a USB hooked up to it as well. That is an option. Now currently I have this set so that the USB out is feeding into my computer, and this computer right here is actually recording the multi-view out. So when I cut to that, that's how that's happening. You cannot stream over RTMP over the network and over the USB at the same time. This isn't a huge deal, but it might be, depending on your use case. In our setup where we are, we actually do use both on our ATEM Mini Extreme. So we stream over the network to our RTMP server and use it that way, and have the USB hooked up to the computer. And so if we want to stream a secondary stream from there, or do some linear capture or whatever, we have had times when we've needed to do that. That is not something you can do with this, so that's just something to be aware of. All right, so finally, I want to show you the menu system. You see this has got this button right here. If you click it, that brings up your menu right here, which is how you do a lot more of your advanced functions. So one of the things that, I did is you can decide, what the program output actually is. So I have program output currently set to multi-view because that's what I want to record. Normally, you would probably set that to program. And you basically click, and then you click that, and then you can go through here and set it to whatever it is you want that to be. I'm going to leave it on multi-view because that's where I want it. And then we exit out. So you can see you can control your transitions. So when you do your little cutting back and forth, you can decide what style you want that wipe to be, softness, direction, all that kinds of stuff. This is a kind of a give and take menu system as far as I can tell, just playing with it a little bit. It's got a lot of customization on it. There are many, many settings you can adjust, most of which I would say 90% of which you are never going to touch. So on one hand, it's nice to have that configurability. On the other hand, it's also just something that's going to be perhaps a little bit confusing, especially to more novice users. So I wouldn't expect you to spend a lot of time in here, probably beyond the initial setup, but it could be a little bit of a pain in the butt if you have to spend a lot of time in here doing it. All right, finally, you do have some basic, control over your, encoding settings for, when you're for your stream, your bit rate, your variable bit rate control, all that kind of stuff you may have to set for how you want to encode, and then your different stream platforms. So you might want to enable streaming, and then the different platforms that you are streaming to can be set up there. And again, you will set that up in the web-based interface in the background. There's no way to do it here. All right, and you go back into recording, what you record to. So again, you have the option of recording from the SD card or the USB, whichever way you want to go, and then how you want to record, what format you want to record in, which is probably going to be MP4 for most people. All right, so a couple of notices. This does have a fan, and it's been running pretty much the whole time, and it's a little bit loud. So just so you know, it's got a fan, probably means that it's working hard. But it does make a little bit of noise. So in your control booth area, you probably got other things that make noise, so it's not probably going to be a huge deal, but something to be thinking about. On the whole, again, the unit feels good, the buttons feel good, they got nice movement to it. The basic controls is pretty much plug and play, depending on what you're doing. Especially if you're going to just plug it into a USB on your computer and not worry about its built-in streaming functions. That's pretty straightforward. Otherwise, it all feels good. It all works. Yeah, I think it's not a bad little unit. All right, so here you'll see the web-based administration tool. You get a preview of what it's seeing, along with some basic hardware information, including things like CPU and temp. So, sure. In the encode settings is where you will see the switch between LAN and USB, and then also the various settings for bitrate and frame interval and all the things that you need for setting up your video encoding. Under stream settings, here's where you'll find your RTMP streams. You can queue multiple streams if you have multiple locations. And this obviously is a lot easier to enter the URLs and stream keys in this environment than trying to fumble with it in the other places. Finally, you can also check out your recording options, where you can record to SD card or USB hard disk, and the basic settings that go along with that. Okay, so the AVKANS multi-port video switcher streamer. What do we think? Well, it's a pretty solid product. And if some of the nuances and benefits it offers are important to you, this would be a great option. The biggest thing there is that mix of HDMI and SDI ports. If you are thinking right now, man, that's exactly what I need. I've got a couple of cameras I want to run off SDI. I've got a couple things I want to run off HDMI, and I don't want to deal with converters that are just going to add complexity to my system. I just want to have that option. Then here you go. I have yet to see anything else on the market that offers that mix between the two different connection types. Or if the multiple video outputs solves a problem for you, then great. So if those are compelling, then I would say it's a solid product. If ease of use is your most compelling concern, this is not going to be hard to use by any means, and it is fairly plug and play, where you can just get it out of the box and make it do what you want it to do fairly simply. But when you start digging into the settings, I don't find the settings as easy to use on this one. I don't find the button layout to be as intuitive as some of the other one. It is completely learnable and completely, figure outable if that's what you need it to do. But if you're in a situation where you're gonna have a procession of volunteers and you need to be able to give them like a 5-minute training on how to use the switcher and then send them loose, then I might lean towards more some of the more mainstream products. Last one about this guy is price. So in a time when you can get an ATEM Mini Pro for $300 fairly routinely, there are a lot of low price options. This one is $399, which is not a bad price for what it does and for this level of feature set, but it's not a bargain price. There are competitors in the same space offering similar products that do similar things at a similar price point. So you're not getting a real discount in terms of the cost by going with what is probably more of a secondary brand like AVKANS versus a mainstream brand like Blackmagic. So there is that. They do sell another version of a streaming product that's a little simpler. Has just, I believe, HDMI inputs, but has a screen on it, and has some basic PTZ controls as like more of an all-in-one solution. That solution is about $50 more than this one. I haven't received one of those to review or anything like that yet, so I can't give you a full opinion on it, but from a feature perspective, it definitely looks interesting, as this does too. So I applaud AVKANS for introducing a pretty solid product into the market. It may be a little bit more of a niche with its interesting configuration of ports on the back, but if you need it, then you are going to be glad that it exists and glad that you have it. All right, please check out the links in the description for more information on how to purchase, especially those Amazon links that really help support the show. I'm also going to link down some videos of my reviews of the AVKANS cameras, and those are pretty solid offering as well. Though, please keep in mind, this will accept any HDMI or SDI source. You don't have to use an AVKANS camera if you don't want to, and in fact, in my testing, I am not. All right. Well, thank you for joining me again, and until I see you again, have a great day.